Do you want to increase your reading speed in just 7 days without boring practice or breaking your focus? Ask yourself what's going to happen when you expand your ability to read and absorb information. Maybe you'll be able to read 2 books a week or stay focused for at least 40 minutes without your mind wandering. Your entire life shifts. Your abilities at work, your abilities to grow your business, your abilities to grow as a human being. Hi, my name is Silvio, and over the last years, I went from completely average learner with problems on getting focused to having a reading speed of 800 words per minute with 90% comprehension rate and becoming an authority in this space. My purpose for the past 9 years has been teaching people how to upgrade the performance of their brains. Being able to read fast and memorize with ease is simply a skill like riding a bike or playing cards, and everybody can do it. Read Better Faster Masterclass will give you the exact step-by-step system to read faster, deeper and with ease without boring practice and losing enthusiasm. At the end of the course, you'll know when to scan, when to slow down and when to read fast up to 800 words per minute to get the essence of the text. Get up to 4 hours of deeply focused strategic work without stress or procrastination, and keep up with current events and topics that interest you and support your voracious curiosity and creative work. Your learning adventure begins immediately after enrolling this course. Take as much time as you need and rewatch it as often as you like. There are no requirements necessary, and we only ask you to watch, learn and implement. If you are struggling with reading fast, I get it. I've been there myself. In fact, I spent years trying to get smarter and work harder without seeing any results. My brain felt fried from digital overload. I forgot people's names right after talking with them, and I completely lost my motivation for learning new things. So, if this is your experience, I'm just here to tell you that being able to read fast has nothing to do with how hard you learn. It has to do with the tools you are using. Effective reading is simply a skill, like riding a bike or playing cards, and everybody can do it. Think about it. If you are going to bake a cake, you get a cookbook and you follow a recipe. That seems simple enough. If you want to get in better shape, you go to the gym or you start working out or you change your nutrition. But most of us just never knew how to learn in a way that it's a game that we can win every day. And so since we never got that training, and since we never had those tools shown to us, how can we expect to be good at the game of reading the smart way? And that's why so many people with high IQ and so many people who are intelligent give up too soon and conclude that they are not smart enough. This happened to me. I was there for years, but I was very lucky to have mentors early in my life who showed me how to use a very simple tool. It's called Read Better Faster system, and I began to see results with this within days of using it. I felt so confident instead of feeling overwhelmed. I was excited for every day because I felt like effective reading was a game that I could win and do it in a way that was good for me, was good for other people. So here's what I'm inviting you to do. During the next 2 modules, I'll share my unique blend of personal experience, work with students and cognitive science research to give you a flexible approach you can use to read anything in less time more effectively. In module number 1, we look at how to increase your reading speed. At the end of it, you'll be able to know when to scan a written text, when to slow down and when to read fast up to 800 words per minute to get the essence of it. In the second module, I'm going to be teaching you about active reading. You are going to actively engage with the book you are reading and capture main ideas, key concepts and details. All this with a strong comprehension rate. Even if you don't implement every single lesson from every module, you'll reach a state of peak effective reading, a state in which you can trust yourself to get things done and read smart. So that is just a brief overview of what you'll find in the Read Better Faster Masterclass. And I encourage you to get started with lesson number 1 right now. Before we dive deeper into explaining what speed reading is and how to increase it, the first step is to understand how reading works. And we'll start with the first element, the word. Have you ever wondered what a word represents? Well, a word is a symbol, of course. From early times, people figured out that every time they combine some letters in a specific order, they will associate them with an object or an idea. Let's have a practical example. Let's take the letters A, E, L, P, P. If you mix them in a specific order, such as apple, you are going to think at a round, colored, juicy object that grows from a specific tree. You will associate a specific identity to these words. The sound we make when we pronounce apple is an audible symbol for the actual object. Similarly, we think about our partners when we look at our wedding rings. In the same way, we reflect on a real apple when we hear the sound apple. The good part is that our minds don't have to do much work. We're automatically trained from the time we are young what to think of when we hear apple or any other word. When we think about writing, things get complicated. If a sound symbolizes a concept, then writing symbolizes a sound that expresses an idea. Let's have a short exercise. Think about the words you are reading in a book. How are you doing this process? Are you reading those words out loud? Most probably, you are thinking the words silently in your head, and you still make meaning out of them. Basically, this process looks like this. Your mind sees the written letters, then it thinks about the sounds those letters represent, and then it connects these sounds to the meanings. This process is called subvocalization, and it can seriously slow your reading speed if you don't keep it under control. To sum up this introductory lesson, words are symbols of ideas. When we talk or read, we are just using symbols to communicate what we are thinking. My opinion is that the process of subvocalization can slow down your reading speed because you are attempting to pronounce each word in your mind. In the next lessons, we'll go deeper in what speed reading is and how to increase it. Now that you understand how reading works, it's time to get to the point of our module, speed reading. So, what is speed reading? The art of speed reading consists of a mixture of reading methods created to get your reading faster. The secret is to decrease the number of habits that slow you down and increase the number of patterns that can speed you up. Before you continue this course, I have to be clear. There is no single simple approach to speed reading that fits every person. Everyone is different, has different motivations, aspirations, and goals, and our starting point is different. This is why I'm advising you to be persistent, be patient, and take your time. In this section dedicated to speed reading, you will learn and practice the best strategies available. On top of that, you will get my full support to select the techniques that best fit your reading patterns. Before continuing, you need to understand these two principles. Decrease the bad habits and use the right techniques. Your reading speed is limited by some bad habits that you may or may not be conscious of. Decrease and even eliminate this and your reading speed will skyrocket. And use the reading speed strategies and techniques described and you will effortlessly read faster. There are two actions from your side. Start immediately implementing the techniques I'm about to show you to your reading and practice these reading techniques as described. Watching this course is not enough. As I've said in the promo video, you need to listen, watch, and most importantly, implement. Now, there are 4 components of speed reading. Seeing the words, saying and hearing the words, comprehension and concentration. The first element of speed reading, seeing the words. Speed reading is based on quick flashes. You take from 1 to 5 words at a time in quick flashes. In order to improve it, in the next lessons, I'm going to help you read several words in a single flash, except when you are finding unknown words. Expand your vision span to read and understand as many words as possible in a single flash. And develop your vision span to read horizontally and vertically, as well as on the page. Usually, efficient speed readers can take in a single flash more than 1 word on a line of text. They can also read and comprehend words on 2 to 3 different lines in a single flash. The second component of speed reading, saying and hearing the words. Being capable of sounding out words is a fundamental ability for beginning readers. The problem appears later on when we need to perform at school or at our job. Then you will see and feel how the sound it out approach actually slows your reading. Mostly, you read not at the speed you think, but rather at the speed you talk. Vocalizing is the term that defines how you say and hear the words as you read them. And you need to decrease it to be a speed reader. And I'm going to assist you in this quest. The third component of speed reading, comprehension. The purpose of reading is to understand what you read. The level of understanding is determined by your current reading speed, the size of your vocabulary, and your level of familiarity with the respective topic. Again, we are going to tackle this inside the lessons that come. And the fourth component, concentration or focus. All reading requires concentration, if only for a moment. Speed reading requires constant, powerful focus because when you speed read, you do some multitasking. You see and read the words on the page. You remain alert to the author's main ideas. You think along with the author and detect how she or he presents the material so you can pin down the main ideas. And you read with more perspective to catch the essential points. To sum up, when you speed read, you need to know when to scan, when to slow down, and when to read fast to get the essence of the text. Now, some practical stuff before moving any further. The unit used for speed reading is WPM, or words per minute, how many words per minute you can read. And the average educated adult's reading speed is somewhere between 200 to 300 words per minute. Many adults are slow and many adults are fast speed readers. Remember that the averages are calculations that include extremely high and low levels of reading speed. And third point, just keep your mind focused on the fact that if you read slowly, let's say 200 to 300 words per minute, your reading speed can be easily doubled with the right application of these skills. In this lesson, we are going to find out what your reading speed is and how to calculate it. There are 4 steps for this. First, select a book to read. I suggest to pick a simple non-fiction book. Technical or study material will be covered in future lessons. Set the timer for 2 minutes. For that, you can use your mobile phone. Start with the first chapter and read for 2 minutes. Once you've finished reading, write a summary of what you have read without looking at the book. This will let us know your comprehension level, how well you have understood the material. Please don't skip this part. Now, here is the process of calculating your reading speed. Count the number of lines you read. Count the number of words on the first line. Multiply step 1 by step 2, and you will get the number of words you have read. Divide step 3 by 2, the number of minutes you have read. And this is your average reading speed. If you want to be more accurate, you can count all the words you have read. No matter the result, don't be harsh on yourself. Your actual reading speed depends on how awake you are, your background information, your material, if you are a multitasker, if you have stuff in your mind you think about, how hungry you are, and so on. But on average, this could be the result. And how to interpret the result. Between 100 to 200 words per minute, you vocalize. You read just one word at a time at approximately the same speed as you normally talk. From time to time, you move your lips while you read. You vocalize while you read and speak the words inwardly while you talk. Between 200 to 300 words per minute, you are an average reader. You vocalize a little bit, but you can read several words at once. Most people read at this average speed. Between 300 to 500 words per minute, you are an above average reader. You have a rich vocabulary. You have strong reading habits. You can read a group of words in a single flash. You recognize and read phrases in sentences quite quickly. You are used to vocalizing a little bit while reading. Above 500 words per minute, you are a speed reader. Usually, you read 10 to 16 words at a glance, horizontally and vertically on the page. You have high confidence in your reading and learning abilities. Now, if your reading speed is below 200 words per minute, then you need to focus on mastering your use of language and getting more comfortable with reading first. Also, start practicing the exercises in the next module, dedicated to those who have a reading speed below 200 words per minute. Remember, this is your starting reading speed. Your reading speed will improve a lot on doing what I will be teaching in this course. Now, here are the action items. Calculate your reading speed and share your reading speed result with your colleagues. You'll have my full support. In order to double or triple your reading speed, you have to be able to monitor and control the bad habits you indulge in when reading. You won't be able to improve your reading skills without first examining what makes you a slow or average reader in the first place. Let me ask you this: what's slowing you down? Here are the issues most people experience before they even start reading. Suboptimal physical and mental conditions. You may never have considered how much your physical and mental conditions affect you, but they can have an enormous impact on the speed and manner in which you absorb written information. Your ability to read fast is directly related to your physical and mental state. The following factors are guaranteed to slow down your reading. You are tired. Many people like to read before going to bed, but the truth is you are better off just going right to sleep. You won't be reading at your peak capacity if you'd rather be sleeping. You just ate a lot. After you eat any meal, but especially a big one, more blood is rushing to your stomach than to your brain. Your brain just isn't going to be in top shape at this point. You have things on your mind. You need to have a clear, focused mind in order to reach an optimal reading speed. While some people can block out all our thoughts, many others cannot. You are in an uncomfortable position. If you are uncomfortable, you won't have that clear, unfocused mind mentioned previously. And you are too comfortable. But don't take yourself too comfortable, or you'll end up convincing your body that it's time to go to sleep. How to fix it? If any of this seem to be affecting you, it's still okay to read, but understand that you would gain better results if you went to sleep or waited a little bit. Second issue before you even start reading: distracting physical environment. You also need to be aware of the conditions of your immediate physical environment. The things around you frequently serve as distractions that inhibit your top reading speed. Take a look at the biggest blunders readers make when selecting a location to read. Noisy environment. Psychological studies have proven that our minds cannot pay sharp attention to two things at once. For most people, even a little conversation behind them or the football game turned down to a low volume will be a distraction. Your mind won't be able to distinguish the sounds of its own reading. Visual distractions. Reading in a crowded place where there's plenty of activity, or even reading in front of the television, means that there's lots going on in your peripheral vision that can distract your eyes from staying glued to the page. Electronics. Electronic devices are definitely a distraction, no doubt about it. If you're trying to speed read with the television on, Facebook open on your laptop, and a text message on the go, you won't be able to get much reading done. How to fix this? Simply decrease the number of distractions in your environment. Speed reading requires that your attention be centered on your reading. Now, here are the issues while you're reading. Reading out loud. The mind moves faster than the lips. When you're reading out loud, you're focusing on things like enunciation, plus you're pulling in so many more parts of your body: your lips, mouth, tongue, jaw, throat, lungs, and so on. Each word needs its individual attention. Your mind doesn't need to work on this level. If you can choose between reading out loud and reading in your head, then choose to read in your head. Reading silently is easily 5 to 10 times faster than reading out loud. Think you are safe? Not yet. You think, I don't read out loud at all. But check yourself on this. Some people actually do read out loud without realizing it. You might not be reading loud enough for someone else to hear, but many unsuspecting people are surprised to realize that in fact they are moving their lips. Amazingly, some people realize that while they aren't moving their lips, they are moving their throat muscles. You could be doing this too, telling your throat to reproduce the sound of each word. How to fix this? This is simply a case of monitoring yourself as you read and discovering if you move your lips or any other part of your body related to speech as you read. If you find you do this, then make a conscious decision to stop. You'll soon be able to end this bad habit, and you'll notice an immediate increase in your reading speed. Now, the issues we are going to continue with are very important and represent the crucial secrets for speed reading success, so please pay very close attention. Subvocalization. In the first lesson, we've discussed how reading works, how our mind turns written symbols into sounds and sounds into meaning. This process is called subvocalization. While it's an important aspect of reading, in that it enables us to derive meaning from what we read, it's possible that it's slowing you down as a reader more than is necessary. When you subvocalize, your mind focuses more on the sounds of words than it needs to. Read this sentence in your head. Jimmy went outside and tried to climb the tree. What did you hear? Are you trying to pronounce each individual word? Jimmy went outside, etc. If the answer is yes, you are probably taking up too much time subvocalizing. Now, how to fix this? Subvocalization refers to what's going on in your head, not the literal movement of lips muscles. It is therefore much harder to detect. This doesn't mean it's impossible though. As you read, try to listen to what's going on in your mind. If you are hearing the individual sound of every word, that means that you are making your mind work much too hard. Doubling your reading speed will be difficult. The aim is to decrease subvocalization. Since words are directly related to meaning, controlling what you hear in your mind means that you can decrease the amount of time it takes to construct meaning. This is an incredibly important technique, and we'll cover the practical steps to decreasing subvocalization fully in the next modules. For now, just consciously try to note when this happens and reduce it in your mind if possible. Next issue, regression. When you are reading, your eyes are not strictly moving in the left to right, top to bottom motion that you'd expect. Due to a lack of attention control or both, your eyes go back several lines or paragraphs and reread something that you've already covered. This can be a conscious or unconscious habit. Sometimes your eyes just don't want to move in the right direction and glance back at other portions of text. Other times, your mind thinks of a quick question or lacks a speed reader's confidence, forcing you to go back and get more information about something you recently read. Sometimes you are just too tired or distracted. Whatever the reason, regression negatively affects your reading speed because your eyes are not moving forward all the time. Now pay attention to this. Going back and rereading text is often considered a good reading skill when you are trying to get the most meaning out of the text. So if you don't understand something you've read, definitely go back and read it again. If you're interested in reading at more than twice your current pace, be sure to choose texts that are easy enough for you to understand the first time. How to fix this issue of regression? Again, self-monitoring is the key to determining how largely you are affected by a regression. Try to pay careful attention to where your eyes and mind are going. Your eyes should move forward line by line. Your mind should keep up with your eyes. If you find that either your eyes automatically revert to previously read text, or if you find that your brain doesn't understand or cannot remember what you've already read, then you are guilty of regression. The more you can control your eyes and keep your mind focused, the more forward and less backward you will read. A useful tool to use is an index card or other small blocking device. As you read, place this card over what you've already read. As you progress down a page, the card will cover more and more of the text. This will restrict you from going back and also will help you realize how much and how often you try to regress. And the last issue that prevents you speed read. Erratic eye movement. This is similar to regression but worse. With erratic eye movement, your eyes don't just revert back to previously read text. They might also jump forward, glance at things outside the text, skip too far down, or even stop dead mid-sentence. You want to make sure that you are reading in a left to right, top to bottom movement, but your eyes are doing anything but. What's more, they might be doing this without even knowing. Remember that sentences, not individual words, have meaning. When your eyes stop, pause, or wander, it means that you are probably trying to derive more meaning out of individual word rather than out of the sentence's complete meaning. How to fix it? You guess it. Self-monitoring. Our eyes are naturally active creatures that often have minds of their own. When you consider how much information they can take in at any moment, it's amazing how much control we do have over them. If you detect that your eyes do not in fact take in words at a natural fluid rate and movement, then you need to practice. Just like any golfer needs to practice the fluidity of his stroke to get the right feel, a reader who wants to increase his speed needs to get the feel for what his eyes should be doing. Now, this list of bad habits and the importance placed on identifying them may seem a bit daunting at first. Here are some tips and tricks to ease you into the process. Self-monitoring. This is the primary tool for getting rid of bad habits. The idea is to be able to catch yourself in the act of bad reading habit if you pay close attention. Once you recognize which of the above habits are indeed slowing you down, you are giving yourself the power to stop those habits. Next, one habit at a time. Don't focus on all of the habits at once. You'll go crazy and you'll probably make yourself commit them all, even more than you would naturally want to. Instead, focus only on one at a time. And practice thinking about each of these bad reading habits. It may take some time to get into a routine of self-monitoring for these bad reading habits, but once you do it, you are already empowering yourself to stop. Now, let's remember our goal. Decrease the bad reading habits and thereby increase the good reading habits. You'll find that if you can stop yourself from performing any of these bad reading habits, then your speed read will automatically increase. Once you've managed to break these bad habits, you are on your way to becoming a pro speed reader. And starting the following chapter, you will take your reading speed to the next level. See you there. Alright, here's what you've learned in this introductory module on speed reading. Words are symbols of ideas. When we talk or read, we're just using symbols to communicate what we are thinking. The art of speed reading consists of a mixture of reading methods created to get you reading faster. The secret here is to decrease the number of habits that slow you down and increase the number of patterns that can speed you up. Your reading speed is limited by some bad habits that you may or may not be conscious of. Decrease and even eliminate this, and your reading speed will skyrocket. There are 4 components of speed reading: seeing the words, saying and hearing the words, comprehension, and concentration. Number 5, you also learned how to calculate your reading speed in just 1 minute. And the last point, these are the bad habits that once eliminated will literally skyrocket your reading speed. Suboptimal physical and mental conditions, distracting physical environment, reading out loud, subvocalization, regression, and erratic eye movement. Alright, let's move forward. If you didn't do it yet, please measure your reading speed. Depending on your result, if you read less than 250 words per minute, start directly with the next module. Do the exercises as described, then move forward. The next module will help you speed read between 250 to 500 words per minute. But if your initial reading speed is 250 words per minute or above, skip the next module and start the next one, which is for medium to advanced speed readers. Our goal there is to read between 500 to 800 words per minute. If your reading speed is below 200 words per minute, the first tactic for reading fast is using a pacer. Do you remember how you used to pace the reading material with your fingers when you were a child? That is exactly what you'll be doing once again with this technique. There is nothing to get embarrassed about when using this method. After all, it is quite useful to bring about an instant increase in your reading speed. At the same time, it can improve your comprehension. Here are the instructions. First, you should sit properly while maintaining an angle of 45 degrees. Make sure that you are comfortable. Place your elbow on the table and use a single hand to hold the material you're about to read. Use the index finger of the contrary as your pointer. Alternatively, you can use a separate item like a pen or a pencil as your pointer. Now, place the pointer you have chosen the first word. Start pacing by moving the pointer across the lines. Make sure that your eyes are concentrating on the position of the pointer and the words. Keep reading and moving the pointer simultaneously. Proceed to the next line as soon as you have completed one. Here, remember that your pointer will be determining the speed of your reading as well as your focus. You can always adjust your speed if you want to improve comprehension. However, keep it fast enough. Your understanding will catch up with time. If you miss out a few words, forget about them. Keep going on. Force your brain to increase the speed and let it take care of the comprehension and the other details. When you notice that you have lost the thought or you do not understand what you are reading anymore, take a break. Go back to the point when you understood the material. Many speed readers consider hand pacing to be one of the best techniques that can be used for improving this skill. There are several benefits to this process. You can improve your comprehension. The reading speed can be increased indeed. Retention can also be improved significantly. You will be able to guide your eye as you are reading. You will learn how you can concentrate without being affected by distractions. Do not go too fast and remember not to force it. Your eyes and your brain will eventually get tired and you'll have no clue about what you have read by then. Don't force it. Read it out loud if you must, but only in the beginning and if you explicitly must. The key is to make your eyes follow the finger, and at the same time, you are creating an image in your brain. When you start thinking about something that has nothing to do with the material, your eyes will still follow, but the brain will not. Make sure that does not happen. Like any activity you wish to learn, you will have to be patient and practice a lot if you want to take the most out of hand pacing. After all, this technique does not require you to move a pointer only. It also teaches your eyes to keep following the pointer. Learning it is easy, but you have to spend time and effort to master it. Spend between 1 to 2 weeks on this technique, 15 to 20 minutes of practice, and become familiar with it. Once you master it, you can move on to the next technique. Fixating on every word is another barrier to higher reading speeds. It is a reading habit that we learn as children. Although it is perhaps the only way we can learn to read, fixating on every word in a passage is not needed to understand it. The time your eyes spend moving between words, although small, can be reduced, thereby increasing your overall reading speed. To become aware of how you can see more by fixating on only one place, focus your sight in the middle of a sentence. Notice that you can read the words around the main word, the central word. Indeed, without moving your sight from the center, you may be able to read the whole sentence with your eyes resting on just this one place. Here is a text that is dissected by circles. Whilst keeping your focus on the red dot, attempt to expand your field of vision so that you also see the circles around it and the words within them. You should be able to read the first 5 words of the paragraph by only fixating on the red dot. If you are struggling to see the words around the word central, relax your eyes and make them feel slightly lazy. Weaken your gaze and soon you'll be able to see more than you did before. A useful extension of this technique is to draw 2 lines down the page to dissect it into thirds. Then move your focus only between these 2 lines. Here's a text to practice this technique. Try reading it by only stopping your eyes twice for each line of the text, whenever the line of text is intersected by a blue line. Now try this technique with the book you have been practicing with. Draw lines lightly in pencil if the book isn't your own, down the page at intervals. Space this line so that there are roughly 3 to 5 words on each side of the lines, just like in the picture. Read by moving your focus between the lines so that your eyes zigzag down the page. The pencil lines are helpful to start with, but once you have practiced this technique, you will grow accustomed to guessing where best to fixate your eyes. Don't worry, you won't have to draw lines onto everything you read in the future. Now, when reading normally, the reader understands words one at a time. Nevertheless, it is possible to look at a phrase and understand it without reading each word individually. Reading like this in group of words is faster because you can understand a group of words just as well as you do with a single word. With the previous technique, you looked at the center of 5 words and read them consecutively. For example, while focusing on word 3, you read sequentially word 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. With this new grouping technique, you will read all 5 words at once while still holding your focus on word 3. You will learn to read them in one snapshot of information. For example, you read words 1 to 5 all at once while focusing on word 3. Now, how to practice this? Like you did previously, draw lines down the page and split it into thirds. Then only focus on the points where the draw lines split the text. But now, instead of reading each word, try and take in the group of words altogether so that you see 2 groups of words for each line of text. Force yourself to continue even if comprehension is bad. It will return with practice. And again, work to relax your eyes and keep going. Slowly, your comprehension will return, and things will make sense as your mind adjusts to reading in phrases. I suggest you practice each of these techniques for 15 minutes per day for about 1 to 2 weeks, depending on your speed reading starting point. Your mind will need a chance to adjust as understanding entire phrases at a time is a new skill. Set a timer and keep moving your eyes between the split lines. Comprehension will return in time and you'll be reading a lot more quickly. In the end, I recommend using this technique only when you're trying to take in broader concepts of text and you don't need to understand the details. How do you push your speed limit up to the higher speed and keep it there? The first answer to this question is that you should read and read and read. The second answer is inside this lesson. With the normal double-triple drill, we consciously read at a speed more than our present reading speed. Your eyes have never felt the feeling of reading at double your present speed or triple your reading speed. With this technique, we will make your eyes experience the feeling of reading at 2x and even 3x your current reading speed. Once your eyes and mind have this experience, it will want to read at the maximum potential. This is the purpose of the drill and this lesson. And this is our purpose. Let's start. Using the normal double-triple drill, you'll learn what it feels like to move at significantly faster reading rates. And you'll get a sense of the eye and hand motions necessary to enable you to read quickly. Once you've developed these skills and become familiar with the process of faster movement, you can expect higher reading speeds. How to do it? Select a book to practice this drill. It can be the one you used to calculate your reading speed. Keep a timer next to you. For the first minute, using the underlying hand motion or pacer, read for 1 minute and place light mark at the spot where you stop reading. Count the number of words you've read during this minute. It will tell you what your approximate reading speed is at the moment. The second minute, using the underlying motion once more, start reading 2 times faster. Don't worry about comprehension. You are focusing only on speed at this moment. The third minute, using the underlying motion once more, start reading 3 times faster. Again, don't worry about comprehension. You are focusing only on speed at this moment. Fourth minute, using the underlying motion once again, start reading at your normal reading speed. During the fourth minute, you are focusing only on comprehension and not your reading speed. And this completes one cycle. You have to repeat the same cycle at least 4 times. It will take you 16 minutes to complete 4 cycles. And do this drill every day for 1 to 2 weeks. That was our drill. Skimming and scanning. Previewing happens to be one of the most efficient techniques that you can use for reading faster. Either skimming or scamming accomplish this. By previewing the reading material, you can get the broader picture. You will be able to understand the main idea that the author wished to present along with the most relevant and important details. Previewing techniques can help you save a considerable amount of time. As such, it can prove to be particularly beneficial to students. After all, they will be able to read a lot of books and paperwork and extract all the relevant information from them without reading all the materials entirely. It becomes easier for them to prepare for exams, for example. The great thing about previewing is that it is quite easy to learn. Moreover, you can easily combine it with the other techniques for speed reading we've taught in this module and the ones in the next module. When you make sure that you have formed a picture of the thing you're about to read, you'll feel more comfortable and read faster. Understanding skimming and scanning. The main goal of skimming is to be able to understand the primary concept and idea of the reading material. This technique is best used when you are reading non-fiction material. After all, you will not be reading everything. Instead, you will be reading only those sections that are important to you. You can certainly stop and read interesting details slowly, but you will typically continue and skim through the book quickly. Scanning is a bit different. This technique is used for extracting the main ideas and information from the reading material, such as numbers, names, and specific facts. Scanning requires you to move your eyes rapidly through the page while trying to locate specific phrases and words. This is done to discover an accurate answer. It can also be done for grasping the main fundamental ideas of the material. Previewing techniques are a lot like browsing when it comes to shopping. You will first be taking a broader view of the options available to you. You will be looking at all the products before selecting a few to take a look at in detail. If you are buying, for example, new chairs for your dining room, you will indeed scan the area in the shop where you can find such things. When you finish the scan, you will start looking for chairs, and when you find them, you will consider the details. How much does it cost? Does the color match with the dining table? How they are they comfortable? And so on. The same thing you do when it comes to reading. You don't need to look at the details at first. You just need to find the location of the things you need to read about. You should remember that previewing techniques are generally about finding the answers to the 5 W questions. Who, where, what, when, and why. The location is the answer to where, while who is about the people that are involved in it. As for what, it is about the general idea of the material. Obviously, when refers to the time of some event, while why is about the reasons or analysis. If you manage to answer this question successfully, then you will know that the previewing techniques are working. For skimming and scanning effectively, you need to use a few techniques. Previewing important sentences. Key sentences can typically be found at the start of a paragraph or chapter. You can get a good idea of what the paragraph or the chapter is about by reading just the first few sentences. The fact is that a paragraph is designed to convey a single idea in most circumstances, and a chapter is a collection of paragraphs that denote a specific idea. If you manage to grasp the central idea or concept of the paragraph, you will end up getting the gist. As such, there will rarely be any need for going through the entire paragraph. Moreover, it will also be helpful for you in understanding the chapter completely in a much faster way. There is another approach which you can try out. Here you'll just be searching for the relevant information which you need while skipping out the rest. Another strategy would be to read the opening and the ending sentences of the longer paragraphs. This may be able to give you a more relevant summary of the paragraph so that you can understand the central concept or idea. Scanning for numbers and names. Your reading material may have numbers and will certainly have names. These details are important as they denote concepts, people, and places. Getting to know these details can be particularly important if you are reading a piece of nonfiction. By getting a hold of these details, it is possible to grasp the main facts of the reading material easily. If you wish to scan a text for these details, the best practice would be to use the hand pacing technique or the pacer. Doing so can help you remember a few numbers or names quickly while scanning. To get a better idea, you may examine the text again or read it thoroughly. Scanning for keywords. This is similar to the previous technique. However, instead of just names and numbers, you'll be looking for certain keywords. These keywords are important words, terms, or phrases that you are looking for. You can jot down the keywords that you wish to search for. This can make it easier for you to scan the reading material. And reading the lines. Whenever you have a new reading material, one of the first things that you will be doing is to look at the title. Then you may end up reading the content present on the covers of the book. You may even read the introductory text. This is something you should be consciously doing when you are trying to speed read. By reading these sections, you can come across several keywords. Of course, the title or the subtitle itself can provide you with the main keyword, but that usually happens in the case of nonfiction. Apart from the title of the book, you should also take a look at the titles of the chapter, headlines, and other similar details. These texts are capable of providing you with a lot of useful information. Alright, we are done with the speed reading module for beginners. Remember, our goal here is to increase your speed rather than your comprehension, which will be tackled in future modules. So, here are the key points. Take a non-fiction book you don't need that much. You can buy one already used from a bookshop, for example. Just make sure the pages are cleaned, non-marked. Now, if your initial reading speed calculated in the previous module is below 250 words per minute, these are the exercises to perform. Week number 1. Pacer or pointer technique. How to do it? Use the index finger of the contrary as your pointer. Alternatively, you can use a separate item like a pen or a pencil as your pointer. Now, place the pointer you have chosen the first word. Start pacing by moving the pointer across the lines. Make sure that your eyes are concentrating on the position of the pointer and the words. Keep reading and moving the pointer simultaneously. Proceed to the next line as soon as you have completed one. Keep going on. Force your brain to increase the speed and let it take care of the comprehension and the other details. When you notice that you have lost the thought or you do not understand what you are reading anymore, take a break. Go back to the point when you understood the material. The duration for this exercise. I suggest 15 to 20 minutes per day without any interruptions. Week number 2. Grouping. How to do this exercise. Take a crayon, draw lines down the page and split it into thirds. Then focus only on the points where the drawn lines split the text. But now, instead of reading each word, try and take in the group of words all together, so that you see 2 groups of words for each line of text. Duration? Again, 15 to 20 minutes per day without interruptions for 7 days. Week number 3. Normal double triple drill. How to do it? Take the non-fiction book to practice this drill. Keep a timer next to you. First minute. Using the underlying hand motion, read for 1 minute and place light mark at the spot where you stop reading. Count the number of words you've read in this minute. It will tell you what your approximate reading speed is at that moment. Second minute. Using the underlying motion once more, start reading 2 times faster. Don't worry about comprehension. You are focusing only on speed at this moment. Third minute. Using the underlying motion once more, start reading 3 times faster. Again, don't worry about comprehension. You are focusing only on speed at this moment. Fourth minute. Using the underlying motion once again, start reading at your normal reading speed. During the 4th minute, you are focusing only on comprehension and not on speed reading. This is one cycle. You have to repeat the same cycle at least 4 times. It will take 16 minutes to complete 4 cycles. You have to repeat the same cycle at least 4 times. It will take 16 minutes to complete 4 cycles. The duration? Exactly 16 minutes per day without interruptions for 7 days. Alright, after 4 weeks of consistent practice, my students of the 10x Effective Learning Masterclass usually experience a solid increase of their reading speed around 500 words per minute. But remember, do not worry about comprehension. Focus only on getting your eyes used to move faster while reading. When you are ready, we are going to move to the next level. Speed Reading 102. Discover how to read 500 to 800 words per minute. See you there. The most important component of the speed reading process is the vision span. What is the visual span? Well, it represents the number of letters you can recognize reliably without moving your eyes. I think you are familiar with that moment when your eyes blink as you read a line in a book. Well, your eyes are not blinking without any reason. They are recording the information which your brain will process later on. This is where speed reading or slow reading makes the difference. Your vision span is in direct relation with the eye blink when recording the information in your brain. The shorter your vision span, the less information is processed. Ineffective readers take a pause at every word. During this pause, they see and read the word they are looking at. This pause is called fixation. To read faster, the number of fixations or eye stops made per line has to be reduced. Let's say that you read 1 word per fixation. With training, your vision span has increased and now you start seeing 2 words per fixation. It means that now you have doubled your reading speed. To reduce the number of fixations, it is necessary to train the eyes to see a larger area of the page each time they stop or fixate. With the proper training and practice, it is possible for you to increase your vision span. But the main question here is this. Why do you need to avoid subvocalizing when reading a material? Reading word by word or vocalizing every syllable makes you a slow reader. Most probably, in your childhood, you are taught to read out loud when learning something. This is not what speed reading is. If you expand your vision span, your speed of reading will dramatically increase. If you do all the exercises I'm providing to you, then your reading speed will skyrocket. You'll be able to read at a glance words, phrases, and even whole sentences. Your progress depends on you. Before we actually start, I have some tips for you. First, the exercises that follow are divided in 2 main parts. First, how to expand your vision span and control your eyes, and second, how to develop a wide and deep vision span. Next, each exercise has 3 levels of difficulty. First, uppercase letters, second, uppercase letters plus numeric digits, and third, uppercase letters plus numeric digits plus lowercase letters. Right after the video instructions, you have the PDFs. Inside, you will have a short description of each exercise, then the 3 levels I talked about. My recommendation is to print these PDFs. At least in the beginnings, it's better to do the exercises printed on paper. Then you can do them as well in front of a tablet or your computer. Next tip. You can repeat all these exercises as many times as you need to. They can be a good warm-up for your reading assignments. And the last tip. In order to get the most out of them, spend 15 minutes every day for 30 days. Small and consistent steps are preferable than doing 3 hours per day once a week. Alright, let's start with the first part. How to expand your vision span and control your eyes. The first exercise in this section is the following. Start with the first line and focus your eyes only on the center letter. Start to read aloud or silently vocalize in this order. Center letter, left letter, and right letter. That means you focus your eyes only on the P letter. Then you start to notice the left letter, which is N, and then the right letter, which is J. But please keep your eyes focused centered only on the central letter, in this case the P letter. Once you've done that, move your eyes to the next horizontal line and repeat the process. Continue until you've done with that set. Try to do all the 3 sets of exercises, the 3 levels. It takes time, I know, but you will get the maximum of benefits. It's normal to have the tendency to move your eyes left and right, but try to avoid that as much as possible. There are 2 options to avoid this flow. First, record yourself using a camera with a focus on your eyes, or ask a friend or a family member to supervise you when you train your eyes. To make this process even more effective, here are 2 additional tips. First, try to focus your eyes on the tops of the printed letters or words. This way, your eyes will move rapidly, and you will do the exercises effectively. Second, do not force yourself to see all the letters precisely. Have fun, as this is not a race or a contest. Yes, it's normal to make mistakes. Maybe you'll do some of them towards the end of these exercises, which are more difficult. But you just need to concentrate on training your eyes, on forming new healthy habits of reading. With enough patience, you will see your vision span increases and your reading speed as well. Only after mastering the first exercise, you should move to the second one. Alright, our second exercise is similar with the first one. Start the first line and focus your eyes only on the center letter, in our case D. Start to read aloud or silently vocalize in this order. Center, immediate left, immediate right, far left, far right. That means you keep your eyes focused only on the D letter. Then you start to notice the J letter at the immediate left, then the M letter at the immediate right. Then you start to notice the A letter in the far left and the A letter in the far right. The third exercise. Again, the same instructions. Start with the first line and focus your eyes only on the center letter. Start to read aloud or silently vocalize in this order. Center, immediate left, immediate right, far left, and far right. That means you keep your eyes focused only on the U letter. Then you start to notice the P letter at the immediate left, the Q letter at the immediate right, the G letter at the far left, and the P letter at the far right. The fourth exercise. Start with the first line and focus your eyes only on the center letter, which is B in our case. Start to read aloud or silently vocalize in this order. Center, immediate left, immediate right, far left, far right. That means you keep your eyes focused on the B letter. Then you notice the Z letter at the immediate left, the R letter at the immediate right, the T letter at the far left, the Q letter at the far right, then the L letter at the far left, and the O letter at the far right. The fifth exercise. Start the first line and focus your eyes only on the center letter, in our case, F. Start to read aloud or silently vocalize in this order: center, immediate left, immediate right, far left, far right. That means you focus your eyes only on the F letter. Then you start to notice the G letter at the immediate left, the E letter at the immediate right, the I letter at the far left, the V letter at the far right, the Y letter at the far left, the K letter at the far right, the A letter at the far left, and the D letter at the far right. Pay attention that this exercise is quite difficult. Don't worry if it will not work on the first runs. You need to be persistent, and you don't need to have 100% accuracy. Just do the exercises and be persistent as they work. Alright, the second part. How to develop a wide and deep vision span. The first exercise is the following. Focus your eyes only on the small white space between the letter B and A. Alternately, read left and right from the inside out, one line at a time. Try to make one fixation to read the two lines, then move on to the next set of letters. Repeat the exercises as much as you need to. The second exercise. Focus your eyes only on the center letter of each group, Y in this example. Alternately, read left and right from the inside out, one line at a time. Again, the same suggestion. Try to make only one fixation to read the three lines, then move on to the next set of letters. Repeat the exercises as much as you need to. The third exercise. Focus your eyes only on the center letter of each group. In our example, on the letter L. Alternately, read left and right from the inside out, one line at a time, but keep your eyes focused only on the center letter. Try to make only one fixation to read the three lines, then move on to the next set of letters. Repeat the exercises as much as you need to. Fourth exercise. Focus your eyes only on the center letter of each group. In our example, on the letter A. Alternately, read left and right from the inside out, one line at a time. Try to make only one fixation to read the 5 lines, then move on to the next set of letters. Repeat the exercises as much as you need to. Fifth exercise. Focus your eyes only on the center letter of each group. In our example, on the letter K. Alternately, read left and right from the inside out, one line at a time. Try to make only one fixation to read the 3 lines, then move on to the next set of letters. Repeat the exercises as much as you need to. First, let's explain the notion of subvocalization. Subvocalization represents a term used to describe that narrating voice inside your head when you read something. You are reading to yourself and you can hear yourself inside trying to process what is being read. This is a good thing when you seek to understand the things you are reading, maybe when reading some scientific material. But if you want to read faster, you should learn to comprehend faster and with little subvocalizing. To become conscious of how you currently subvocalize words, look at a word and notice that you cannot help but say to yourself in your mind. By subvocalizing words, we limit how fast we read to the rate of which we speak. As it is possible to understand words by just looking at them, we can shift to learning visually to read faster. Take the time now to read a longer passage. Notice how you can understand words without saying each to yourself. It simply isn't necessary to sound out every word to understand the majority of sentences. However, sometimes subvocalization will be required, for example when reading new words, technical words, difficult words, and unexpected words. Most of the time, however, reducing subvocalization is an efficient way to increase reading speed. There are 3 levels that subvocalization can take on. Within the first level, the reader moves their lips and mouths each word they read. Children who have just begun to read silently do this. Adults who are not frequent readers may also find themselves within this level. If you move your lips while reading, the following techniques will control you from this habit. Clench a wooden spoon or similar object between your teeth. Hold water in your mouth. Put your hand over your mouth. This will subconsciously remind you not to speak. Lightly hold your tongue between your teeth. The second level of subvocalization occurs when the reader still vocalizes the sounds, but in their larynx or throat. At this stage, muscles in the reader's throat move instead of their lips. The third level is when the reader says the words in their mind. This is the most common form of subvocalization. Levels 2 and 3 can be mastered by saying something else silently in your head instead of the words you are reading. For example, as you read, try to subvocalize 1, 2, 3, 4, or the letters A, B, C, D, each time that your eyes fixate on a new place. Time yourself reading now for 1 minute while saying the letters A, B, C, D repeatedly in your head. Each time your eyes fixate on a new place, say the letter or number in your mind instead of the word. Notice how it becomes easier and faster to read without saying every word to yourself. Your comprehension will be poorer than usual, but you should notice that much of the text still makes sense. With practice, comprehension will improve to a higher level. Before I end, a mention has to be made. It is not advisable to remove subvocalization completely. Even after doing the exercises, you may still find yourself subvocalizing certain keywords or phrases without control. This is often necessary and indeed encouraged, as the small boost subvocalization provides for comprehension is needed for challenging sections of text. In the end, consider yourself successful if you get to the point where you only subvocalize a handful of words on each page. Now let's discover one workout that will drastically reduce that narrating voice in your head while reading. Perform this workout every day for at least 2 weeks for visible results. For this, you need a book and a timer before starting the workout. Use a light book, like for example a novel or a book for kids. Then continue with this exercise. Open the book and start reading. While reading at your comfortable speed, pronounce aloud 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then start again 1, 2, 3, and so on up to 10 while reading your text. Repeat again every time you reach 10. Always concentrate your mind on the text and try to understand it as much as possible. It may happen that you lose comprehension while doing this exercise. Do not worry too much and keep practicing this way. Comprehension will arrive very quickly. Keep doing it for 15 minutes for 2 weeks. Our goal is to teach your brain to dissociate pronunciation from reading. Before I end, a mention has to be made. Don't try to remove subvocalization completely. Even after doing this exercise, you may still find yourself subvocalizing certain keywords or phrases without control. This is often necessary and indeed encouraged, as the small boost subvocalization provides for comprehension is needed for challenging sections of text. In the end, consider yourself successful if you get to the point where you only subvocalize a handful of words on each page. Alright, we are done with the speed reading module for advanced readers. Here are the exercises. For the next 2 weeks, we are going to focus on expanding your vision span. Your vision span is in direct relation with the eye blink when recording the information in your brain. The shorter your vision span, the less information is processed. Ineffective readers take a pause at every word. During this pause, they see and read the word they are looking at. This pause is called fixation. To read faster, the number of fixations or eye stops made per line must be reduced. If you expand your vision span, your speed reading will dramatically increase. So please open the documents attached as the supplementary resources of this lesson. The exercises included are divided in 2 main parts. Week 1, how to expand your vision span and control your eyes. Week 2, how to develop a wide and deep vision span. Each exercise has 3 levels of difficulty: uppercase letters and numeric digits, and uppercase letters, numeric digits, and lowercase letters. You can repeat all these exercises as many times as you need to. They can be a good warm-up for your reading assignments. In order to get the most out of them, spend 15 minutes every day for each part. Small and consistent steps are preferable than doing 3 hours per day once a week. Alright, once you are done with these exercises, for the next 2 weeks we are going to focus on reducing subvocalization. As we've discussed, subvocalization represents a term used to describe the narrating voice inside your head when you read something. You are reading to yourself and you can hear yourself inside trying to process what is being read. This is a good thing when you seek to understand the things you are reading, maybe when reading some scientific material. But if you want to read faster, you should learn to comprehend faster and with little subvocalizing. However, sometimes subvocalization will be required, for example when reading new words, technical words, difficult words, and unexpected words. Most of the time, however, reducing subvocalization is an efficient way to increase reading speed. A note of warning. It is not advisable to remove subvocalization completely. Even after doing the following exercise, you may still find yourself subvocalizing certain keywords or phrases without control. This is often necessary and indeed encouraged, as the small boost subvocalization provides for comprehension is needed for challenging sections of text. After you finish with the expanding your vision exercises, for the next 2 weeks do this drill. Determine your current reading speed, then increase it by 20%. Start reading at a higher speed for 1 minute, then return to your normal speed for 1 minute. Repeat these 2 points for 16 minutes for 14 days without any interruptions. By doing this exercise, you will stress the brain to forget pronunciation in order to capture the information. Always be concentrated on the reading and try to capture the information in the book. Of course, you won't be able, and that is the point, but you have to try. It's this exercise of trying what makes the brain learn that it doesn't have to pronounce to get the information. Up to now, you discovered the most advanced tactics and strategies that will at least double or even triple your reading speed up to 500 to 700 words per minute. If you completed all the exercises and drills I recommended to you, you certainly reached this objective. I congratulate you on this accomplishment. During this module, we'll go to the next level of reading, active reading. Speed reading is great if you want to read a lot of material in a short amount of time. Speed reading can be trained in various conditions, and you will have the edge when trying to understand general concepts within hundreds of pages of material to study. On the other hand, there are cases when it's not advised to speed read. For example, if you're studying advanced physics, it is not advisable to speed read. If you need to learn in high detail some particular software language, what will help you is not a great speed reading, but a strong comprehension level. How usually people read? In the vast majority of cases, their routine looks like this. They read quickly the information to learn. They try to understand that information. Finally, they let the concepts go deep inside their brain. This is called passive reading, and this method is not the best for the medium and long-term learning. If you are a student, an entrepreneur, or a professional, here are some of the problems you might encounter when having to read thousands of pages for an exam or learn something new. Bad memory. Maybe you can remember what was written half an hour after reading, but can you explain it after 3 days, 3 weeks, or for the exam? Distractions. The most dangerous is daydreaming, a symptom of passive reading. It's like when you have to go through different sections before realizing you hadn't read what was written. Falling asleep while reading. Reading many pages of boring stuff can get even energetic people into sleeping mode. Therefore, I want to introduce you to the concept of active reading. The whole idea of speed reading isn't just to read fast. Speed reading trains you to figure it out immediately when to speed up and slow down. If speed reading works on increasing your speed, active reading works on increasing your comprehension level. Active reading enables you to convert reading from a passive activity into one where you are fully involved and can center on significant aspects to remember them more precisely later and understand them more thoroughly at the moment. I'm sure you are already active read or at least done it partially. Have you ever used a pacer or a highlighter to mark passages of your text when reading? If your answer is yes, then you understand how to read actively to a limited degree. Active reading is important for two reasons. It helps you in separating the essential information from the unnecessary information. It makes you connect with the essential information beyond just reading the text. In the next two lessons, you'll discover the best ways to actively read and some practical examples. See you there. In the previous lesson, you learned the two principles of active reading. Decide what is relevant and understand the relevant information beyond just reading the book. In this lesson, you'll learn the 5-step approach to connect it with a challenging textbook you have to learn from. Phase 1. Read. Phase 2. Read with highlighting. This involves rereading. Phase 3. Read with paraphrasing into a notebook. Phase 4. Paraphrase with pictures. Phase 5. Paraphrase with pictures and research from Wikipedia or Google. Let's have a practical example to support this 5-step approach. Let's say that my daily goal is to read one chapter of the psychology textbook, which is about 40 pages. I'll only be in the first phase of active reading for the most time. This is because the many of the examples in the textbook are there to help me learn some complex ideas. But definitely, I don't have to memorize all those examples and details. For the important concepts, though, I'll be in phase 2. I'll highlight those ideas. When I do this, I also reread as I underline so that I don't miss any critical details. For the challenging to memorize concepts, I'll be in phase 3. I'll write down a short description on a piece of paper while reading. For even more central ideas, I'll go into phase 4. I'll add diagrams and associations in the notebook. And for the hardest points, I'll be in phase 5. I'll research on Google, Wikipedia, specialized forums to get more explanation on those key points. So this is the approach to follow when active reading important stuff for your studies. Usually, you don't have to follow all these 5 phases while actively reading. Somewhere between 3 and 4 is the sweet point that will allow you to understand the text you are studying. However, if you are struggling with a topic, using all the 5 phases of active reading will improve comprehension. Now, probably you'll ask yourself, should I do it once or multiple times? If you're a beginner and are not familiar with this system, I encourage you to approach the textbook many times, especially if the text is hard. How is this done? Based on my previous example with the psychology book, I could read the chapter once just passively, phase 1. Then I would read over, this time marking important information, phase 2. Next, I'd reread highlighted concepts and paraphrase in a notepad the most important ones, phase 3. In phase 4, I would reread highlighted sections and create relevant diagrams, and in phase 5, I'll finish this process by completing research on the hard-to-understand ideas. Of course, this method takes some time. However, if done precisely, a solid active reading strategy will increase your comprehension levels, indicating you don't have to invest much time studying later on. An important announcement here. Your phases will be different with each topic. The read, highlight, paraphrase, diagrams, research phase approach is just one example. I would use it in texts that have a more conceptual knowledge, like psychology, history, or economics. However, if you're learning a programming language, those phases wouldn't help you much. For programming or physics, the approach will be this one. Read, highlight, paraphrase, practice, and research. What about for foreign languages? You can use this approach. Read, paraphrase, or highlight, visualize word association. These are just general examples because every learning experience is different. You need to adjust this active reading strategy based on your individual goal. Now, how to decide what is important? The 5-step strategy to connect with a difficult textbook only helps if you know what is important and what is irrelevant. Furthermore, please pay attention to the balance of various phases as well. For example, for some books, I can just read them almost passively, doing little more than highlighting to remember the information. For other courses, I have invested a little time reading. Most of my reading tasks are spent researching, practicing, or using other sophisticated strategies to understand and remember the information. Distinguishing what is essential and how actively you should read will change on a textbook-by-textbook basis. If you have problems with this point, I suggest taking the following actions. Talk to your teacher or mentor at work. Talk to students, peers who have taken the course, program, textbook, study materials before. And open a question inside this course and I'll help you right away. Inside this training lesson, I'll share a few ways I've used active reading so that the 5-step approach makes more sense in live action. First example, psychology notes. I've had to take Psychology 101 class during my bachelor in marketing. Of course, I had many readings to do. Therefore, I use this 3-step approach that helped me master the material and succeed on my final exam. Read, highlight, paraphrase. First, I read all the material. In general, a good part of your testable knowledge will come from the textbook. Sometimes about 50% of the problems can only be clarified from book readings, so not reading them can result in a failure or bad final marks. Next, I highlighted facts, principles, and strategies. This process allowed me to cut a few hundred pages of information into 30 to 50 pages, which can be examined rapidly. Finally, I summarized those key points in my words onto a separate piece of paper. From about 30 to 50 of highlighted pages, I got into 3 to 5 pages of solid critical information. The second example, marketing case studies. Once again, a simple 3-step process looks like this. Read, highlight, case studies. I started by reading and then highlighting. I did this just once, but it probably would have been better to read twice and during the second time to focus on highlighting. I took irrelevant facts as important and vice versa. This time, however, rather than explaining in my own words, I focused on case studies which are critical in understanding marketing. How to start active reading. Before you start reading something actively, decide what the phases you are going to complete are. Unless you already have an active habit, you might want to start with these 3 steps. Read, highlight, paraphrase. I suggest starting with multiple readings. Once you've done this a few times, you can expand by adding deeper steps to make your time spent on reading meaningful. Implementing the skill. Now, reading about ideas doesn't turn them into skills. You need to practice them. I suggest you do a 7-day experiment. Read actively one subject for 1 month. Actively read textbook material for 40 to 50 minutes every day, and add a layer to your current readings. I'm going to introduce you to the concept of visualization while learning. This process is done simply by adding sound, movement, and other sensations to the ideas you are trying to learn. It can help you with learning abstract and concrete information, technical subjects, dull subjects. Some topics you might try to learn, especially the concrete ones, can make visualization automatic. Let's take the human respiratory process as an example. When someone explains you to this process, this automatically triggers your imagination. You start to imagine where the heart, the veins, the blood are. The real power of visualization comes from using it in situations where it isn't automatic. For example, try visualizing a heartbeat. Easy, right? Now try imagining a chemical reaction equation. Not so easy, right? It might be difficult, but in reality, it's easy to create images for technical or abstract problems. By practicing the exercises you are going to get in the next lesson, you can take any idea and make it memorable by visualizing it with color, sound, motion, or other senses. When learning, your pictures don't need to be perfect. You want many images, not just 1 or 2, which might have flaws. There are 3 steps to better visualizations. Visualization is a complex skill that suggests some practice. Therefore, don't look for precise visualizations when starting. Just take a phase which you think you can manage. Phase 1. Paper pictures. If you find it difficult to think at abstract ideas in your head, write it out. How to proceed? In your notepad, draw simple ideas about the subject to help visualize it. Those pictures don't need to be perfect. Just try to understand them. That's it. Picture creation is a powerful learning method, sometimes superior to simple note-taking. Phase 2. Mental images. The next phase is to work on creating images in your head. Compared to phase 1, the only advantage forming mental images has is time. It takes much time to draw an idea on a piece of paper than to visualize it. On the other hand, because the main benefit is time, this doesn't mean drawing pictures is wrong. Phase 3. Mental movies. The next step is to add sound, color, motion, and other sensations into your mental image. An image doesn't usually come all at once. Start with drawing the picture on a piece of paper, then transforming it into a mental image, and then create a mental movie with it. Each phase makes the picture more interesting and vivid. How to imagine abstract ideas. If you find hard to imagine abstract ideas, here are some tips that might help you think of a basic picture to draw when you are getting started. Shape. Many abstract ideas have a shape associated. A square is indeed an abstraction, but it has a distinct shape associated. Basic shapes are your starting points for more complex images. Cases. Some ideas split into different cases. These are easy to represent in flow diagrams by an arrow splitting or merging onto a different idea. Different cases can be visualized in the same way as splitting or merging together when different events happen. Movement. Is there any change involved in what you're visualizing? It doesn't have to be changed through time. Even moving along a graph where when different values are inserted into the formula is a form of movement. Interaction. Where do two different elements meet? In a chemical formula, the molecules need to conjoin, break apart, or catalyze. If you can figure it out where these interactions occur, that's a good starting point for any picture. How to practice visualization. Let's have an example on how to use visualization when learning a new topic. Because I'm passionate about marketing, let's have a look at how to learn the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, place, and promotion. How can you visualize them to have them attached to your memory? Stage 1. Ask yourself what a product represents. Let's imagine you choose a box of cereals as your product. Then you could immediately draw a box on your paper. This represents the first pillar of marketing, product. For the second P, price, you could then add a price tag to the box, let's say $4.99. The third P, place, is a bit harder to draw, but you could locate the box on a distinctive shelf inside the supermarket. For the fourth P, promotion, all you need is a 20% off sign pointing to the box. Is it a simplification? Of course, that's precisely the case. But please remember, you don't have to draw a perfect picture of your topic to study. Stage 2. Now you'll take the idea, the final image you had on stage 1, and visualize it clearly in your head. It's even better if you color it. Stage 3. Imagine the box of cereals on a single stand with distinct brand colors, an LCD monitor next to it which runs a particular advertisement of your product. You can add music, special lights. You could take the box and hold it to feel the weight. You could also try in your mind to locate your particular shelf inside the supermarket. How to implement it? I suggest starting a 7-day trial where you commit to creating 3 to 5 visualizations every day. If you're having difficulty reaching stage 3, you may want to commit only to stage 1 or 2 visualizations for these 7 days. Once again, talk is cheap, action is what matters. If you want to possess savant-like, genius-level visualizing powers, you need to practice. Good luck to you, and I'll see you in the next lesson. The complete blueprint on how to read any book. Setting your purpose. Why are you reading? In order to become an effective reader, it is important to begin the habit of setting a clear purpose for a book before you begin reading. Setting a purpose will usually be the first stage in any multi-step reading strategy because your purpose will dictate which reading techniques you will use. Your purpose can be applied to 2 levels. First, you must determine what your overall purpose for reading is. Second, decide what your purpose for reading this specific book is. An example of an overall purpose is research a new career. An example of a book-specific purpose is what training do I need to become a lawyer and what salary can I expect? Setting these 2 purposes won't always be necessary. If you are reading for pleasure, you can take your time with a book without worry. However, on many occasions, taking time to set a clear purpose for your overall reading and or for the specific book you are reading will help ensure you read more effectively. Effective reading can be understood as reading with the right techniques to meet your purpose. When the purpose is implicit, such as enjoying a fiction book, you don't need to set the purpose. But most of the time, a clear purpose will produce more effective reading as you can tailor your reading technique or techniques accordingly. You can match the purpose with a strategy that gives you the comprehension and retention you need in the least amount of time. Qualifying books. A clear overall purpose also allows you to better filter books and so only read those that give you the information you need. This can help save a great deal of time overall, because obviously you then only read books that are helpful and avoid the ones that are not. Often you will not need to qualify a book, but if you are researching or studying or learning, it will prove useful. Qualifying a book means ascertaining whether the book will allow you to complete your purpose for reading. It involves discovering whether a book contains what you are looking for before even reading it. An example of an overall reading purpose is research and find reasons why Napoleon just lost the Battle of Waterloo. For this purpose, you can say that a book will be useful if it contains information about the reasons Napoleon lost the Battle of Waterloo. If you pick up a book and can tell it won't fulfill this criteria, then of course you can put it aside and not read it. This can save you a tremendous amount of time, as you don't waste time reading the wrong books. Consider also that qualifying a book based on quality is important. Why not try to read the best books you can read? Look at reviews and critical opinions from others to do this. Working with technology makes this easier. You can search for critiques online or simply look at reviews on the Amazon website or Goodreads to reveal the quality of a book. Previewing, an essential preliminary reading technique and how to qualify a book. The process of previewing is the best way to qualify a book and see whether it is worth reading or not. It's also a valuable reading technique in itself and can be considered as another non-reading speed reading technique. Essentially, previewing is a technique that addresses the highest value areas of a book. To preview a book, read this list slowly, normally, and ideally whilst taking notes. If you are doing this to qualify a book, stop reading or previewing as soon as you realize the book won't be of help to you. Then begin the hunt for another book that might. To preview, read in order. Title of the book, the blurb on the back, contents page, any details just inside the covers, details that pertain to content, not ISBN, etc. Introduction to the book, conclusion to the book, introduction to each chapter, conclusion to each chapter, smaller secondary headings, boxed and underlined ideas. Going through the entire list would be a very thorough and exhaustive preview. Performing the first 6 would be sufficient for most purposes. The previewing process alone will sometimes provide enough information to complete your purpose for reading. When only a few ideas or basic comprehension is needed, the limited but strong summarizing nature of previewing is often enough. Side note: I use the phrase high value to mean parts of the text that have the most top-down explanations. These are sections that explain the wider ideas, not the details. However, if your purpose is to find specific pieces of information, it is of course going to be these parts of the text that are high value. Next, set a clear book-specific purpose. Once you have established that the book qualifies to be read, it is helpful to set a specific purpose for the book. A clear purpose for the book itself allows you to qualify passages of text as you are reading. You can then skip the unimportant parts, those that won't give you what you want. Setting a purpose for your overall reading allows you to skip unhelpful books, and similarly, setting a book-specific purpose enables you to skip unhelpful parts of the text. The clearer and more specific the goal is, the better. Specific goals will make it easier to ascertain which parts of the text are helpful and which are not as you read. If your goal doesn't lend itself to specificity, it can help to manipulate it so that it is more specific. An example of doing this might be beginning with the book purpose, find out why Napoleon lost the Battle of Waterloo, and then altering it into something clear, such as find the 3 most significant reasons that Napoleon lost the Battle of Waterloo. With a specific goal for reading in place, you can filter through the text and see what is extraneous and what is useful more easily. Setting a purpose for each chapter is a further extension of this principle. At the start of each chapter, ask yourself this question: what do I want from this chapter, or what do I want to find inside this chapter? As you are reading, you can then see more clearly what material is extraneous and what can be skipped. Upon finishing the chapter, take the time to determine whether or not you found the necessary information. By integrating the techniques we have learned so far, you can create an example multi-step reading strategy that looks like this. Set purpose for reading, qualify by previewing, set purpose for the book, speed read and skipping the unimportant. Another point is this: high-value text is often at the start and at the end. You may have noticed that previewing often concentrates on the start and end of sections. This is because it is here that the high-value areas normally are. The introduction and conclusion of any length of writing will have the highest value density, as it is here that the main point and the most important evidence are summarized together. Typically, text longer than a sentence adheres to the following format. Introduction states the main point and central idea. Body, a series of points that give evidence, explanation, elaboration of the main point. Conclusion, re-emphasis of the main point stated in the introduction that is tied together with the ideas developed in the body. A handy mnemonic for remembering this can be 1 plus 2 equal 3. What is stated in the intro 1 and body 2 is even brought together in the conclusion 3. Hence, 1 plus 2 equal 3. This format is true for paragraphs, chapters, and the whole book. All will have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. To get the comprehension you need at the fastest speed, focus on the start and end of each paragraph and chapter. Doing so will mean you read the essential high-value areas of the text first. To what extent you focus on the start and the end of sections will depend on how much detail you need in order to meet your purpose for reading. Often, just the start and conclusion of a book or chapter will get you enough information. Rarely will your purpose dictate that you need to focus on the body of each paragraph. To improve your awareness of where the high-value areas are in the text, take a pen and underline or highlight these areas. Remember, focus on the start and end. High-value sign points, transition words. As well as taking into account the form of a text, intro, body, conclusion, 1 plus 2 equal 3, to find high-value areas, you can also focus on higher-value sentences within a text. Being able to pick out and focus on this can further boost your overall speed, comprehension, and retention. These high-value phrases are often preceded by transition words. Recognizing these words and then slowing down to give more attention to what follows will mean that you read still more effectively. Here are some examples. Consequently, therefore, because, importantly, furthermore. When you see words such as this, it will usually be a sign that what follows will be of higher value. Taking notes, underlining, or simply slowing down your reading speed may improve your comprehension of these high-value ideas. Next point, varying speed. When intelligently applying multiple reading techniques and speed reading, it is best practice to frequently alter your reading speed. Varying the speed at which you read is an excellent way to make sure you give more time to the areas of higher value. Slower reading and especially subvocalizing each word will give a small lift to comprehension. This is not just applicable for different texts, but also within the same text. Altering reading speed throughout the book means that you will drop in and out of speed reading modes in order to match the value or difficulty of each section. Your words per minute reading speed will therefore fluctuate up and down to align with what you are reading. Although I'm suggesting slowing down for high-value areas, I'm not suggesting that speed reading doesn't cater for good comprehension. It does. Subvocalization and slow reading simply ensure better comprehension. Similarly, even greater comprehension can be attained if we actually speak aloud when reading. Do you ever find yourself reading something aloud when you really don't get it? However, we do not usually need the comprehension that comes with subvocalization, and still rarer do we need to say a word or phrase aloud to understand it. To clarify, it is practical to speed read and not subvocalize most of the time, because the text is usually not sufficiently valuable or difficult. When it does become more valuable and or difficult, subvocalization or reading aloud provides the needed boost in comprehension. And the last tip to comprehension. Read the majority of nonfiction the same way you read a newspaper. Newspapers are an exceptionally good source for reading quickly. This is because the layout of a newspaper and the way it is written is designed to be as easy as possible to find and read the high-value sections. Newspaper articles are written so that the most important ideas are laid out first. Details are then incrementally added. This is less true for features and opinion pieces. This means that you can read news articles from the start but stop at the point at which you feel you have enough detail. If the first paragraph explains the main point and that is all you need, you can stop there. Often the first paragraph alone will offer enough information. Now, if you don't currently practice these reading techniques when reading newspapers, for example, focusing on high value, altering speed, multiple readings, etc., consider beginning here, as newspapers are an easy place to start speed reading. Consider also how it may be helpful to treat the majority of nonfiction as if it were a newspaper. Read only what you want or need to, and stop when you get enough information. Alright, we're at the end of the active reading module. Here's what you've learned so far. The whole idea of speed reading isn't just to read fast. Speed reading trains you to figure it out immediately when to speed up and slow down. If speed reading works on increasing your speed, active reading works on increasing your comprehension level. Active reading enables you to convert reading from a passive activity into one where you are fully involved and can center on significant aspects to remember them more precisely later on and understand them more thoroughly at the moment. So, for the next 2 weeks, here is the 5-step exercise to connecting with a challenging textbook you have to learn. Phase 1. Read. Phase 2. Read with highlighting. This involves rereading. Phase 3. Read with paraphrasing into a notebook. Phase 4. Paraphrase with picture. And Phase 5. Paraphrase with pictures and research. How to do it? Take a textbook you want to study. I like a lot the Dummies series. For example, Accounting for Dummies, Art History for Dummies, Yoga for Dummies, and so on. But Dummies series is just an example. It can be any basic textbook you have in your library, or you can borrow from your local library. Remember, we're just practicing, and you really don't have to buy anything. Check what you have in your library, or borrow some interesting textbook from your local library. Duration of this exercise. Do the 5-step exercise 2 to 3 times per week for 50 minutes of deep practice without any interruptions. Continue doing it for the next 2 weeks. Now, once you finish this exercise, next you'll implement the concept of visualization while learning. This is done simply by adding sound, movement, and other sensations to the ideas you are trying to learn. When learning, your pictures don't need to be perfect. You want many images, not just 1 or 2, which might have flaws. There are 3 steps to better visualizations. Phase 1. Paper pictures. If you find it difficult to think at abstract ideas in your head, write it out. How to proceed? In your notepad, draw simple ideas about the subject to help visualize it. Those pictures don't need to be perfect. Just try to understand them. That's it. Picture creation is a powerful learning method, sometimes superior to simple note-taking. Phase 2. Mental images. The next phase is to work on creating images in your head. Compared to Phase 1, the only advantage forming mental images has is time. It takes much time to draw an idea on a piece of paper than to visualize it. On the other hand, because the main benefit is time, this doesn't mean drawing pictures is wrong. Phase 3. Mental movies. The next step is to add sound, color, motion, and other sensations into your mental image. An image doesn't usually come all at once. Start with drawing the picture on a piece of paper, then transforming it into a mental image, and then create a mental movie with it. Each phase makes the picture more interesting and vivid. How to do it? For the next 2 weeks, commit to creating 2 visualizations every day. If you are having difficulty reaching stage 3, you may want to commit only to stage 1 or 2 visualizations for the first week. Once again, talk is cheap. Action is what matters. If you want to possess genius-level visualizing powers, you need to practice. Congratulations on completing this course on skyrocketing your speed reading. Now you have a complete guide to increasing your reading speed by 300% using speed reading techniques, reading comprehension techniques, and accelerated learning strategies. Use the information inside this course to break old habits that may be slowing you down and develop strategies for increased comprehension in less time. At the end, you will have a clear blueprint that will help you simplify your workload and reading process by improving all four of its key elements: speed, focus, comprehension, and retention. Also, one more thing, I've added some special bonuses and resources in the lecture immediately following this lecture, so be sure to check those out. Thank you for taking my course, and I look forward to seeing you in my other courses soon. Hi, and welcome to my ultimate guide to creating good habits. This course will help you establish solid habits both in life and work. Once you are finished with this course, you'll be able to establish health habits like eating healthier, exercising frequently, or doing daily meditation practice. Work habits like working on your most important projects, pitching new clients, or writing. And habits for unpleasant tasks like cleaning your apartment, doing the paperwork for your business, or answering emails consistently. I'm pretty sure you already have many habits in your life that you are doing automatically, like brushing your teeth, or locking the apartment door while leaving, or putting on shoes when going out of the apartment. When you think about it, since you do these things automatically, they don't really take that much willpower and energy from you. On the other hand, you need a lot of willpower and energy for tasks that you don't do automatically yet, especially if they are not pleasant for you. Inside this course, I will show you how to achieve consistent progress in life by automating some of your behaviors and creating habits that actually stick. But before we jump into the strategies and tactics for doing that, we're going to start with our first lesson. What is the relationship between I think that goals are a great thing to have, together with a clear vision, because they help you identify the direction that you want to move in your life. If you don't have a clear direction in life, you will probably make it somewhere, but you almost definitely will not make it where you want to go and become really successful at something. If you are constantly focused on large goals, like having a bodybuilder body, or building $1 million business, or running a hard marathon, it might just happen that you will do more dreaming than taking action, because these goals are so far away. So instead of focusing on goals, you will get better results by focusing on the process instead. Instead of focusing on building a 7-figure business, focus on becoming the person who is capable of building $1 million business by changing your habits. You can do this in a very simple way by asking yourself the following question. If I want to reach my goals, what are the activities that I need to be doing on a consistent basis? Write the answer to this question down on paper and save it, as you will need it later on in this guide. Let's have some examples. Growing a business requires working on the client work X hours a day, thinking about strategy and optimizing your business model X hours a week, focusing out to X new potential clients a week. Or writing a book requires writing X amount of words every day. Or getting a six-pack requires eating in line with a nutrition plan, doing stretch exercises Y time a week, doing cardio exercises X times a week. Of course, I'm pretty sure these examples are oversimplified, but you get the point. In case you are still not able to determine which habits you need to adopt in order to reach a certain goal, even after asking yourself the previous question and looking at those examples, here is what you can do. Find a person who has already achieved a goal that you want to achieve. Analyze them, or even better, talk to them in person. Ask them what their day looks like and what are the things that they are doing consistently that allowed them to reach the goal that you want to reach. Once you do that, you will most likely be able to identify some of the habits that you don't have right now. And when you identify these habits, you should adopt them. The number one mistake: not being specific enough. The first mistake that people tend to make when it comes to habits is not being specific enough. I've seen this issue with a ton of people in my past. When I ask them which habits they want to implement in their lives, their responses usually were something along these lines. I want to eat healthier. I want to exercise more. I want to be more productive in the mornings. Whereas those ideas might sound completely reasonable, since they are so vague, it's extremely hard to measure them. And since they are hard to measure, it's also hard to say if you are progressing towards them or not. And what happens when you don't see any progress? You quit. Instead of setting vague habits, you can try going ultra-specific about the habits that you can implement that will help you get closer to your goals. What do I mean by specific habits? Let's have these 3 examples. I want to eat at least 3 pieces of fruit every day. Each working day at 6 a.m., I want to go out for a 15-minute running. After I finish my breakfast on Saturday and Sunday, I want to write 700 words of my book. Once you reframe the habits and make them far more specific, it's easier to measure your progress, determine if you are doing good or bad, and also to identify the areas for improvement. Here is my task for you. Write down one habit that you want to form and be very specific. If you are not sure how to do that exactly, here are a couple of questions to get you started. How many times a week do I want to do this habit? On which days do I want to do this habit? At what time do I want to do this habit? For how long do I want to be doing this habit? Is there any other measurable metric that will determine if I completed the habit for the day? For example, the number of words written. Now, please do these exercises. Thank you very much. Very often we rely on pure willpower. You have probably heard yourself something like this countless times. This year we'll really buckle down and start working harder. You said that you would try harder and put in more effort. But how long did that last? A week, a day, a couple of hours? For a long time, I personally relied on willpower and motivation to reach my goals and form new habits. But the problem with those is that willpower is limited and motivation is changing very often. That is why sometimes it's very easy for you to put in a ton of work, but other times it's hard to even get off the couch and get started. And this is why you are constantly struggling with issues like having no motivation to work. You also can't get yourself to start exercising, eat healthy, and clean your apartment consistently. Whenever you try to change your behavior, it always ends in the same way. You eventually get stuck and quit. Instead of relying only on willpower, the successful entrepreneurs and executives rely on systems. They have systems set up that allow them to consistently put in the work to grow their business or excel at their work, at their job. They also have systems set up that help them get the unpleasant tasks like cleaning the apartment or cleaning the dishes at home. In this lesson, I will show you a simple system that you can use to form any new habit. It's called Set the Stage technique. What you need to do is follow these 5 steps. First, select a specific habit that you want to form. We've already covered this part in the previous lesson. Second, identify the 3 most common barriers that might break your habit. Third, develop one solution for each of these barriers. 4. test these solutions to see which of them are working and which aren't. And the last step, replace the solutions that aren't working until you find ones that work for you. Okay, that was this lesson. Please do this set the stage technique, and if you have any questions, please open a discussion. Thank you very much. The first mistake that you can make is to try to form habits alone without anyone holding you accountable. I've heard something like this many times. I'm sure I can figure all of this out on my own. I don't need any help with it. And more often than not, I've seen the people who have said this stagnate in the future and break their habits. And more often than not, I've seen that the people who have said this stagnate in the future and break their habits. Why? Because there is nobody there to hold them accountable. There is no one to help them out when they are stuck. And there is no one to give them another point of view that might help them get unstuck. I've experienced the same thing myself in the past, more specifically when I redesigned my exercising habit. In the past, I used the exercise together with my friends, and I would always look forward to hanging out with them, so the habit was very easy to stick to, even when the times got tough in other areas of my life. However, when I began to exercise alone at home, I realized that my habit became way harder to keep up when I got stuck. There are two ways in which you can prevent this from happening to you. The first thing you can do is to find someone to do the habit together with you. This can mean playing football with your friends, running with your girlfriend, or working in an office together with your business partner. Just having someone who you can care about next to you will make it easier for you to actually stick with the habit when times get tough, because you will not want to disappoint them. I do, however, realize that you will want to sometimes do the habits on your own, like exercise at home or write a book, because this might be more convenient for you or allow you to avoid distractions. In that case, you can still get the accountability that you need to keep your habits going from another person, like for example an accountability partner or an accountability group. To help me with my exercise habits, I've joined a very strict fitness accountability group that has weekly check-ins. If you fail at your habits for 2 weeks in a row, you get kicked out of the group for a few weeks. Since I've joined this group a couple of months, I managed to keep my exercise going every single week, regardless of how I was doing in other areas of my life. Of course, you don't need to do something as radical as joining a strict group like that. You could just find another person who has similar goals than you and do, for example, a Skype call with them once a week, where you can hold each other accountable for sticking with your habits. During these calls, you can review your habits together and also iterate through different solutions using the systems technique we've talked previously. I'd like to point out one last thing when you talk about accountability though. From my experience, accountability works best when you are meeting with a person or a group of people that you already have an existing relationship with. When you have an existing relationship with someone who believed in you, you will not want to disappoint them. You will not want to look like a failure in their eyes. That's where the true accountability comes from, in my experience. For that reason, the accountability doesn't work so well if you just join a group basketball practice where you don't know anyone yet, or join an online accountability group of random people. On the other hand, if in that group there are a couple of people with whom you have an existing relationship and you think highly of them, then you cannot just afford to slack in front of them. Now, I hope this lesson makes sense. If you have any questions, please open a discussion. Thank you very much. Now you know which are the most common mistakes that you should avoid while trying to form new habits. But I don't want you to stop there. So I want to give you more techniques and insights that will allow you to really bulletproof your habits. One thing that I've realized about half a year ago is that it's extremely hard to form a habit that you don't enjoy doing. That is why it was hard for you to study for a subject that you didn't like when you were at the university. That's why it's hard for you to do the paperwork for your business when you enjoy doing client work way more. And that is why it's hard for you to clean your apartment and wash the dishes consistently. Let's look at a couple of solutions for this problem. In order to still reach your goals, you can either outsource the work, switch the habit, or make the habit more exciting. Some habits that you hate can probably be outsourced, like for example washing the dishes or doing the paperwork for your business, which can at least to some extent be outsourced by getting a housemaid or an assistant. But of course there are also some habits that you just cannot outsource. If your goal is to get a six-pack, for example, you have many different nutrition plans that you can follow, as well as many different ways in which you can exercise. So if you find out that you don't enjoy jogging on your own so much, you can usually go and play basketball with your friends, which will help you get similar results. If you find it painful to calculate calories or to strictly follow a nutrition plan from morning to evening all the time, you can explore other options like trying out the paleo diet, which can also get you good results. If there is a possibility for you to switch a habit to a more exciting one that will get you the same results, you should definitely do that. However, sometimes you just will not be able to do this. Sometimes you will not be able to afford to outsource the habits, and you will not really be able to switch the habits. In that case, you should focus on making the habits themselves more exciting. You can do this by asking yourself this question: what can you do to make this habit more exciting by doing it differently? Let's look at a practical example, like studying for a university exam that you find boring. Here are a couple of things you can do to make this habit more exciting. First, you can get together and study with a group of friends that you enjoy hanging out with. Second, you can try exploring different studying techniques like using metaphors or visualizations. And third, you can Google the concepts that you need to learn and find how they are used in real life, and then starting an exciting project where you will be able to use those concepts in action. I hope you understood how to bring the fun into the habits. Think at this question: what can you do to make this habit more exciting by doing it differently? I'm pretty sure you are a creative person. So, if you have any questions, please open a discussion inside this course. If not, let's move on to the next lesson. Thank you very much. How to remember your habits. One of the best ways of remembering habits is to create specific triggers for your habits. These triggers can either be existing habits or visual triggers. Existing habits are great because they will happen every day and you can simply connect the new habit before, during, or after the old habit. On the other hand, with some habits you might want to use visual triggers in order to remember to do them. Examples of existing habits. After breakfast, write 500 words of a book. After waking up, go for a running. After the power nap, clean the dishes. Now, here are some examples of visual triggers: placing running shoes and clothes next to your bed, or placing a bowl of fruits on your desk, or preparing project materials for the next day on your work desk before leaving to work. Now, when you should do your habits? Does it matter if you do a habit in the morning or in the evening? I think it does, and here is why. We as humans have limited willpower and energy levels. Think about it. If you are tired and burned out of work, how likely is it that you will actually continue a habit? Instead of ignoring willpower and energy levels, why don't you give yourself the best chances of success? By strategically positioning the habits at times when you have the most energy and willpower, you can drastically increase the percentage of times you manage to do a habit. As a rule of thumb, doing the habits earlier in the day instead of waiting for the last second in the evening will be a good thing. In fact, by doing some of the habits as a part of your morning routine, you can actually build your momentum to get even more work done after you are done with your habits. Another thing that you can do to increase your chances of success is to decrease the amount of willpower and energy necessary to start an activity. For example, it will be much easier to get started with working on your most important work project in the morning if you prepare all project materials the evening before. Another example would be packing your clothes into the gym bag a day before so that you can just take the bag and go when you need to go there. In general, the fewer the things that you need to do in order to get something started, the more likely you are to succeed. Period. Now, how many habits should you form at once? Should you just try to create one habit at once, or can you do more? And how long does it take to form a habit? Personally, I don't think that there is a definite answer to that question that will work for everyone. Why? Because I believe that creating new habits is a skill that you can get better at. That means that in the beginning, it might take you longer to form new habits, and once you get better at doing it, you can form them faster. On top of that, it also depends how big the habits that you are trying to build are. Writing for an hour each morning will take you far more willpower than building a small habit like washing your teeth, because it requires more energy and willpower. In the end, it all comes down to testing and seeing how you are doing. By following this course, you should be able to add a new habit to your life every 1 to 2 weeks. However, you should always keep in mind that you will struggle with some habits more than with others. With some, you will implement them quite fast, and with others, it might take you weeks before you make them work for you. A general guideline that you can use is to start a new habit once you have successfully maintained the last added habit for 7 days. Now, how big should the habits be? Should you create very small habits, or can you create bigger ones right off the bat? I think there are different points of view on this topic out there, but I've personally found it the most effective is to start small with habits between 5 to 15 minutes long. Once you have successfully completed the small habit for a week, you can work on gradually increasing it by 10% each week and seeing how you are progressing. With habits that are longer, like playing basketball or going to the gym, you can start bigger, but in that case, you shouldn't do the habits every day, since that will likely lead into burnout because of low energy levels.